Welcome to Vlog Thursday number 316, Techbar, XCP-NG updates, security, errata, and Q&A. We usually just throw it right to Q&A, but there's at least a couple things I'll talk about to get out of the way, so we'll cover that. I was just amusing myself greatly with ChatGPT before it broke, and it was fun until it stopped, but I don't know. I was actually surprised. I was gonna I just didn't have time before it stopped working. I was asking about product, and I think this might be another interesting thing that people are going to query for is Chat GPT and the like how good does this product work type thing. We'll talk about that in a minute because I'll share the results I have for what did come out of Chat GPT before it breaks, and it broke at the most hysterical of times. So we'll cover that in just a second. But first, and because it's first in the list, we will cover this. I'm going to be on the Tech Bar with my friends in a little while. That is meaning that I'm going to be doing more than one live stream. I'm going to be doing this live stream right here. I'm going to throw the link. It's in the description already. The link for this. It's another live show. We're going to eat some hot wings and talk about tech. It's not as deeply technical. It's a little bit more business oriented, if you will. But join the chat. Come join us. This is going to be live in a couple hours, which means this is not going to go for several hours today because eventually I got to go be on that live stream. But I'd love if you guys could join in on the Tech Bar stuff. So, hey, come on over there. I'm still going to be streaming for you want to follow. Like I said, it's a little less technical, but certainly going to have some laughs. That's generally it's just a good time with Ray or Cindy, and I've been on there before, done some stuff before, so definitely going to be interesting. Now, let's see. The next thing I want to jump right into, because I like to get some of these things out of the way when I put something specific in there. The next thing I want to get into is Zen Orchestra, their new updates. And there's a little bit, this is just me not getting it, haven't figured all of it out yet. I updated right away. I just haven't done any testing on a couple new features, but at least one of the features I want to demo. I didn't pull it up right away because once you start playing with Chat GPT and it starts working, you want to I don't know, just keep going with it. And next thing you know, you got to do a live stream. So I got to log into this one. There we go. Didn't have the password saved. All right. So the Tech Bar, join that. Awesome. And let's jump over here to we'll start here. Is this the right one? Yeah, this is the right one. It's the other tab I have that's the wrong one. So we'll start with the right tab. All right. The new Zen Orchestra 579 is out and we're using it. So I keep updating as soon as the new version comes out. I like to test it out. A lot of, I'm a big on troubleshooting and playing with a lot of these things. And I'm kind of doing this in a way. So like if you, the user, want to try it, at least Tom has gone through some levels of testing along with lots of other people. I'm just someone who has a YouTube channel and does testing. But if you join their forums, there's plenty of people out there doing testing on it. And I've commented on this before that like the testing I do is with the community edition and the videos I do generally are with the community edition. And the reason why is because I know a lot of the home lab people follow me. So I always like to say, hey, by the way, you can run this in your home lab. Here's all the cool stuff that I'm doing with software that you have access to without any licenses. I pivot when I talk to businesses because I'm like, hey, cool, free stuff's neat. Got to pay for the project, keep support and development going. They have a service delivery model that costs X per month, depending on your subscription. So I like to bring those two things up before I dive into some of the Zen topics. But that being said, this is really a business oriented feature they've got rolling out here, and that's VMware migration. As the VMware deal closes with, what's that company? Broadcom. This is going to be something that gets talked about a lot more. And we're seeing already, people are kind of know the ratings on the wall, they're increasing prices, blah, blah, blah. And people are going, well, there's probably other solutions out there. And when they start researching them, they look at this and they've done a lot of engineering to take the pain out of migration. And that's a big part of this latest release from Zen and XCP-NG, which is awesome. There's also Oh, hi from Seattle, trying to get XCP installed, couldn't get it. I see Oliver has joined right away inside of here. Yeah, it works on a lot of hardware. We've installed this, and matter of fact, many people have installed it on consumer hardware. So drive through your details of what error it's getting stuck on, so it can, hopefully sort that out and figure out why. Forum posts are good for that. Dive through the errors, run through the forum posts. But back to the, some of the things here I don't have, but my friend Jason Slagle does. So if he gets a chance to watch this, or I'll reach out to him. He's building some Zen servers as well and putting some together, and they're looking at, doing some more playing with it, because he's very familiar with doing things with Zen, VMware, and he's looking at getting more into Zen. I got to turn my Slack notifications off before I go crazy. Pause notifications. There we go. All right. Yeah. All right. Slack notifications paused. Now the quiet. I'm easily distracted by things. I have to turn things off that go beep and click. But they're nonetheless automated processes for migration. This is awesome. This is something that Jason will be doing some testing for, and I'm looking forward to the testing on it. Why is pause notifications not working? Hold on. Oh, derp. All right, now pause notifications should work. Problem fixed. Tom is less distracted now. All right. Scroll down here a little bit. Zen Orchestra is not allowed to have same IP as a server as XCP-NG. That is definitely correct. That is it runs as a separate VM. The Zen Orchestra does. I'm going to make some new videos on that, because there's been a lot of changes since my last videos, and I need to do some more long form content. It's like any task. Sometimes you avoid tasks when it's sitting down and doing really long form content, because it just takes too much time. So I end up cranking out a bunch of short videos, but I don't know. Sometimes the long form ones do really well. Back to some of the new things they've added in here. They do have, for those of you that want to do really clever things, a REST API. So our work continues providing more content to our REST API in parallel over existing JSON RPC over WebSocket API. So they actually have two APIs for this, but this is just kind of a cool thing, because you're able to create your own automations. As if Zen Orchestra doesn't offer you a lot of things, there may be some extra things you want to build or have queries built into different automations. They've extended that a lot. That's something that it's really cool. I just don't know how much this crowd's going to love it, but hey, that's all in the blog post that's in there. Kubernetes recipe updated. One of these days, I'm going to sit down with Jay from Learn Linux TV and get better at Kubernetes. I am not particularly good at it. People ask me about it. It's not my day job. Jay is very familiar with it. And maybe me and Jay will sit down and collab on it and talk about things that can be done with Kubernetes and building things in Kubernetes with XCP-NG. But the part that I know a lot of you are going to like is this one right here. And that's the part that I had to use that password to show. This is coming a long way. This is getting there. This is the XO Lite. And to give you an idea, this is not the same as an Orchestra in terms of like it doesn't run in a VM. This is actually now them working on an interface that you can use on a server like natively. I imagine there'll be a future where this is just automatically included. But this is pretty cool, because you can see there's like the Windows lab system that's running from Eric's lab. Here's one that Kyle's running. I know he's doing some migration with it. Here's my Phoronix server that's running on here, which I can even let's see if I know the password to this one. Maybe. There we go. Hey, cool. But I can now change the state of this VM. Let's see if it works. We can, we'll just tell it to reboot it. Hey, look, it restarts. So now I did not do this through Zen Orchestra. This is all done with the XO Lite. This is a new feature they're working on. And this is that question a lot of people have is, well, why do I have to load a separate VM that runs the Zen Orchestra? And it's one of those things, well, there's a reason from it architecturally that I won't go deeply into, but it does allow for really big scalability with a single Zen Orchestra instance managing many pools and many hosts. But there is a use case for people who go, I just want to load it and be able to have some basic access to the VMs on there. And that's what they're working on here, is being able to put this together and give you an interface that is running natively on XCP-NG without another thing running on there. Can give you some of the, basics to get things done. If you need more advanced, cool, you get Zen Orchestra. That being said, there's not a lot here yet in terms of some of these other things. These are all coming soon. They're working on it, but it's to show progress on it. So the console isn't reloading automatically without going back on a console. Okay. When you do a reboot. Got it. Cool. I think it looks cool. You know what, the first thing I really like, and I know there's going to be a big design change when you go to the next version, but I love the dark mode. So the dark mode's really cool in there. It's just a neat that this is all coming together. I'm always impressed with the team over at Vates. They always have so much innovation they're working on, and sometimes. And I listened to Oliver's talk on it. And by the way, that is the actual developer, Oliver Lambert, that is in the chat right now. And one of the things that we'll scroll down because I want to jump to this particular one. This right here, that I'm kind of glad that annoyance was fixed, because I know many of you, when it would display 127.48 gig, come on, just round it up. There's 128 gigs of RAM in this particular server. It's a minor fix, but it's just a rounding thing. And someone may be unhappy now because it's not being precision about it. But for me, I don't know. I kind of like being able to say, hey, it shows 128 gigs in my server now. It has a nice rounded number. Details, but I think those details are kind of, they're important. One thing, and the part I am, I was not done testing with this yet. I see the option, and this is for the NBD for they have a link here. Well, actually, I want to link to the other page on it because they got a more detailed write-up, which is Oh, I've probably scrolled right past it twice. There we go. Network block device. Now, this is a feature that allows a different methodology to talk to the system. Oh, and yes, confirming XO Lite will have dark and light mode. Yes. That's awesome. Dark and light mode. So very cool there. My kind of question I have on this, and it's because I don't know. And let's look here to my hosts. Actually, pools. If I have, and we'll scroll in a little bit here. So this is one of my lab systems called Labert. That's what my staff named it. But Labert I turned this on. Is that all I have to do to do the MBD connection? Is just switch it to MBD connection. The next question is, will I get that parallel faster potential speed if the Zen Orchestra managing my lab isn't on this pool? I don't know if that makes a difference or not. So if, I'll post the question in the forums, maybe so I can understand it better. But I want to do some testing, like with it turned on, with it turned off. Does it make a difference on the speed? I guess the other question is there any risk, just turning it on of causing any potential issues? But it's a new feature that came out that I'm like, I get what it's supposed to do. I just don't maybe understand it in detail of some of the performance that may come from it. But it's a cool feature. And once again, I'm just excited to see all the new features coming to Zen and all the fine tuning that's coming on there. I might do now, though, and back to one more topic while that one kind of stews around, renaming the Citrix PV tool. This is good because I might need to do an updated video, because this is a question that comes up where people load the Zen drivers and also load the drivers from Citrix. So load the Citrix drivers, then they'll load the other drivers. And this is where people just kind of break windows by loading those drivers on there. And so there's some clarifications that are going to be in here, which maybe I'll make an updated video just to talk about this. We're managing the Citrix PV drivers. And it says right here, a classic mistake is users could potentially make in Zen Orchestra. You are using XCP tools in your Windows VM, and then you decide to enable Windows Update for PV tools. However, this is only working if you have Citrix tools installed, because mixing them will cause, at best, loss of PV drivers, and at worst, crash of your VM. This is actually something I've seen people do. They start playing with it. It's one or the other, not both. So this is going to be maybe something I'll have an updated video on that as a topic. So perfect. I will make sure I post in the forum so I have a good, clear explanation of how MBD works. I want to do some playing with that. It's definitely pretty cool. What hardware like CPU do you recommend for XCBD running VMs and with Bitwarden syncing and UniFi for basic testing? Honestly, it it's hard for me to say, because it's keeping up with what's on sale is actually the best answer. So while there's a big variety of support, if you can afford it, enterprise stuff is awesome. If you can't afford it, like you're a home user and you're like, okay, my budget doesn't say enterprise on it. There's plenty of used good enterprise equipment out there. Dell R730s are floating around, R630s for maybe reasonable prices. We built this particular system. This is just running, and I have a build video on this. This is an AMD Ryzen 9 5900, and someone said, why didn't you go with insert name of other processor? At the time we bought this a while ago, it was on sale for like $150 off or something like that. Like, my very honest answer is this processor, even though the other one is like a little bit more cores, I think there was a bigger price gap at the time. There's a smaller price gap for a similar processor now. So this was not a bad system. That was kind of affordable. Our other lab system was an even slower one. And I don't think I have a video on that particular system, which parts we use. It's also, we built it 2 years ago, so that gets a little bit fuzzy. But for what, even this, this Ryzen 9 is obviously going to be pretty fast. And we run all kinds of things on it with no problems. Like, we have a handful of VMs running on here. Some of the more, intensive ones are actually Graylog. Even with all the sites we manage for UniFi just doesn't barely take any CPU. It's barely touching, what do we got here? 12 and 15%. So it doesn't take much to run those things. And I'm running it at the business level here. So testing Zen 4 next week, just for sake of checking on it, checking if it works out of the box. That's awesome. Xeon workstation processor or smaller setups, you're building something. Otherwise, entry-level major brand servers are good too. That's another place, because so many people are looking for the rack mount ones. If you're buying used and you're looking on eBay, you can sometimes find deals on some of the workstations, and they're using very similar hardware to what you may find in some of the other enterprise ones. And there's not a huge aftermarket for them. So sometimes those go for really cheap. So there's a lot of different deals you can find on those. I have an OptiClex Micro running, needs to consolidate, more like UniFi Gen 2 plus Ubuntu VM. Yeah, there's a kind of a myth. For as many sites as we run, it just doesn't take much CPU to run a lot of the usual stuff. So UniFi, not much in terms of that. Running Graylog is not intense. I talked about this last week. Graylog doesn't get intense until you really start querying it and have a ton of data in there. Mostly it sits idle. It's only the queries that take the time. We're running, what is else? The other one here, Zabbix. Zabbix doesn't take much processor power, and neither does Bitwarden. Bitwarden, it's just like 1%. And we have 10 users, not 9 or 10 users in Bitwarden. So it just sits here doing very little, because running the back end of Bitwarden is not processor intensive at all. So Dell Outlet Store, yeah, maybe. What's the topic? The topic currently is Zen Orchestra updates. So I think I went through them now. I think we've covered the updates, the rounding of the memory, the Citrix PV tool. But check it out. And by the way, I only went briefly through this. There is a video, and I'll throw this link in here. The team over at Bates and Oliver and them, they put together a video release where they cover things with more detail. They got the blog, the write-up, the detail in the video. So they do a good job of getting the information out there. Like, I like testing it, but I don't need to like dig to figure it all out. Most of the information I get is all detailed out in their blog posts, which are actually quite good. So Yeah, this is true right now. Most of the problems you run into in virtualization are very, it's memory restrictions. Like if you have too many things doing memory restrictions, that may be a bigger challenge than any of the compute problems. From a compute standpoint, when you look at the hosts and things like that, I mean, the CPU usage on a host is just so little. Here's where I don't know what I was running. Probably I rebooted that computer and we peaked this one out at 25% here, but it's crazy how much compute power you can get. It never seems like enough if you're playing games, but if you're just running a bunch of Linux virtual machines and maybe even a couple Windows ones, yeah, it doesn't really take a lot to keep these things going. Oh, I thought this was loaded. Oh, wrong server. It's patched on this one. I got to patch the other servers. That's on my to-do list. But check out the XO Lite. There's a write-up in their forums about XO Lite. It's coming along. It's something you can check out. It's not there yet, but it's getting there. The E5 2600 V4 CPUs are way cheaper now than when I looked a couple years ago. Oh yeah, they're dropping fast. Is there a guide on your forum for updating XWave from play from sources? You just rerun the same tool. So if you followed my guide on building Zen from source, you could just run through it again. It'll build again. Do you think Home Assistant, UniFi controller, Uptime Kuma, and SyncThing is a good on a Raspberry Pi instead of running everything on the main server? I don't know about SyncThing. But the other ones, sure. Uptime Kuma. Well, UniFi, it depends on how much is in your UniFi. The UniFi is going to have some intensity as well. I don't know that the UniFi controller, it really comes down to, you only have if you're running it just for your home stuff, yeah, it'd probably be fine. Once you go beyond your home stuff, it might be less fine running it. So home server, home assistant is awesome. I don't know though what the limitations are. I do happen to have my home assistant on its own. Oh, that's not the right one. We have home assistant at my office and at my house here, or studio, home, whatever. There we go. I had to find the right one. But this is my home assistant setup, and it's running on a Raspberry Pi, which is probably not too much. But the things that are kind of like it's not stressing it, but the things that do stress it a bit are it's always talking to my Synology to always have the latest snapshots. So it actually has a little bit of data feed that does a little bit of load on there for that. But I don't know, running the UniFi controller at the same time, that's a tough one. I've not really done a lot of testing with the Raspberry Pis with that. I had an 8-core LGA 2011 V3 and a X99 motherboard, $120 DR cheap, so 64 gig would cost $150, solid system. Yeah. Intel 9th and 10th gen workstations can be found on eBay for less than $300. That's good. There's also an XO Docker container, updatable watchtower. Oh, that's cool. Get a PowerEdge R220. Tempted to change over to XCP to use power. And this I know because of when this is, and there's a few of my European friends I see in here. Yeah, the power usage is going to be like a big consideration. I will admit the Ryzen's definitely a lot more power efficient than our old Dell servers that we were using. How do I get a cloud key? How do I get a cloud key off the cloud for local management and backup and reset? Yeah, I don't think there's any way to break the cloud management once you've tied to it. I think you have to reset it, but it's been a while, so we don't use that many cloud keys. When we do consulting, lots of people have them, but that's not often a question we get where, hey, can you remove this from the cloud? Not necessarily something I think we see a lot of people doing. Still looking at an affordable rack mount ARM server. Yeah. That can be tricky right there for ARM servers. I don't know where the prices are on those. I think they're probably coming down. Switching over from a R720 Optiplex, a space heater is too much for a single room. Yeah, that's where all that extra power definitely goes. I seen there was an update on here, so I didn't know. Maybe that update. Okay, it says redo. I didn't read the details. Whenever there's a Home Assistant update, I'm just excited because there's an update. That's kind of how I look at it. I did a little bit of a, not really video, but I did post this on my shorts. But by the way, like, subscribe, hit that, smash that like button. But yeah, this is actually, I got a battery pack on this, and I want to start. I've had this for a while. I just didn't have the battery pack until recently. It runs for. I'm curious if it stays all the way on until tomorrow. It's been on most of the day, and it's still got all the bars on it for here. I'm curious because Raspberry Pi Zeros use so little, and this is an e-ink display. And in case you're wondering, like, we literally went to the went to like Amazon or something like that and just ordered a nice picture frame. That's what this is in, with an e-ink display. But if you look at my shorts, I've got the link to the parts used and everything else. If anyone's curious about it, it's kind of cool. Like, I mean, I'm using it for YouTube, obviously, with the e-ink display. But if you wanted to use it for any type of information that you don't need like real-time updates, but you can run it on a cycle and say, hey, refresh this and show me some piece of information. So anytime I glance over it, I can see it. I love e-ink stuff. It's just really, really fascinating to me. Offline backups to like a USB, SSD for bitward and OTP importance. What do you recommend? Offline backups like a USB or SSD. I mean, get one of those. I was looking to see if I had one in reach, and I do not. My back itches. They make, let me pull it up real quick. There's actually one I do recommend. I bought one a long time ago. So let me find it in my Amazon cart so I can share it with the class here. But they are called, let me find it. This is called Tough USB. There we go. So I still have this and still use it. This one's pretty cool. I have more than one. So let me, I'm not sharing the screen. Share the screen. There we go. I've actually been using this particular one since 2017. I have another one I keep it on, but what I like about these is they're just they feel extremely well made. They're waterproof. But this is where I keep I use encryption on it, by the way, so it's encrypted at rest. So even if someone took it, and this is something you should consider because these are obviously, someone could easily walk away with your USB. But I keep like a lot of critical stuff if I ever needed to rebuild, and then you put this in a safe. So it's got its own encryption. I use Lux encryption, and then from there, it's got all those extra things like a backup of critical data I might have, like passwords and things like that. And those are also encrypted. So even if you unwrap the encryption that I use to encrypt this, there's another layer of encryption for the other data that's saved on there. It's just one extra step for doing it. So those are pretty good. Still lots to talk. So just bought a used Dell PowerEdge R740, but order new SSDs. Now I'll have two matching R740s. Recommend vSphere or Hyper-V. I don't recommend either one of those. I recommend XCP-NG. But you do you. My recommendation would never be for Hyper-V at all. I mean, if you're learning vSphere at work, it makes sense. If you're going to work in that industry, then probably using it. So I print my Warden Vault, put it in a safe. Makes sense. I have two of those on my keychain, one Ventoy and one with other tools. They're really solid. Like, it's really well made, and they're not that. It's $33. It's not incredibly expensive. I'll throw a link here for anyone that wants to get it. What if I forget the password for the USB? I mean, it could happen. I don't know. I hope, because it's kind of a fear. I do dumb things sometimes. I ride motorcycles. I get a good whack to the head, and next thing you know, I don't know the passwords to anything anymore. I don't know. It can happen. I don't have a. There's debates I've had about how I want to handle that. So back up the password to another USB. Have someone you trust, a spouse or a family member or someone that you feel that you can trust to have that data. Put it in a will. Have the will have some piece of information. There's probably some methodologies for it. So I wonder if the Broadcom VMware deal will go through. With Broadcom's announcement, certain customers aren't important. I expect it drove people to look alternatives. Oh, tons of them. The moment that got announced, there was already some people migrating for migrating from VMware to XCP-NG. That took off. Like that was a a big thing that happened. So yeah. Hide the USB in a pizza box. Use a long passphrase. Yeah. Those are all good ideas. What was the next thing we wanted to talk about besides USBs? I didn't actually have a lot in the list today. Is it Techbar, security, and Errata? Oh, I do have something I want to share. Yes, that was the next thing. I did have this. I forgot to put it in my list. So let me pull it up because I like to click the exact link. There we go. I'll drag it over here. And here we go. Oh, it says, 95% of our new leads. So the day Broadcom announcement, we had a huge raise in registrations, and 95% of our new leads are asking about migrating. Yeah, it is. It is crazy for sure. You need to look for a remote job offer if you want to work with XCP-NG. Approximately only ESC or Hyper-V. Yeah, it kind of depends on what you're doing in what the job offers and where you are. And if you want to work remotely, that's, those are fair assessments. But I wanted to bring this up because this kind of closes the deal here for this incident. And Nicholas Sharp pled guilty today in Manhattan federal court to multiple federal crimes in connection with a scheme he perpetrated to secretly steal gigabytes of confidential files from a New York-based technology company where he was employed. And that company is, for those of you that don't know, Ubiquiti. So this is the pleading guilty to extortion from Ubiquiti. This was one of those crazy stories where it started with, it looked like Ubiquiti had a security incident, but it was a little bit more complicated than that, it turned out. And then it got a lot more complicated. It just turned into kind of a big mess. And it's kind of a good end that this person is going to face some real jail time here for it. I mean, it's really unfortunate. They made a really poor life choice. I'm not saying I like seeing people in jail, but this is also one of those, like, you should not try to extort your employer for $2 million and pretend to be a threat actor. This was just a dumb and terrible, tragic idea. And the total maximum sentence, the guidelines for the sentencing, not the guaranteed sentence, are up to 35 years. And, this question comes up a lot about insider threat. And I wanted to highlight it because it's also something that doesn't happen that often. It's not a real frequent occurrence, but obviously it's tragic when it is. And the damage was, like, the ripple effects from the damage to Ubiquiti's brand and everything was, the fallout from this was just a big, big mess. But yeah, for sure. It's just it's a big disaster right here. So I mean, I'm justice served as best as it can be. But yes, the FBI investigation there, don't do this stuff. Like, this is just a terrible idea. Person was, a higher level at Ubiquiti, probably had a pretty good career, a pretty good job. So even if the sentence is, let's say, only 10 years, will anyone ever trust this person again to work at their company, even if he got a light sentence? I mean, it's career ending. The dude's not working in tech anymore. And he's not going to be current on tech by the time he gets out of prison. So it's a big mess. Yep, I'm posting this on Twitter time as well. Yeah, too long didn't read. Copy data. We pretended to be a threat actor and was extorting the company, but then they found out that he was the one pretending to be the threat actor, and it kind of became a big mess. Just a big disaster. Are you gonna stick with MB, or will you switch to something like Jellyfin? What does Jellyfin offer me? Is what it comes down to. Like, I don't know the differences between them. It's not my field of expertise. So what I look at and and we'll pull up EM. I'm using it on my Synology. So I seen that they had a Synology option for MB. So I loaded it. It worked. Problem solved. Moving on. Like, I did not spend a ton of time researching it. I know Plex broke, MB worked, and that's where I landed. And then I don't even know, will this work on Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, Gentoo portable? Like, is there an option to run this in my Synology? Maybe, I guess, in Docker. The fact that MB, and we'll go back over here. This is what sold me on MB, was the NAS support. Like, hey, cool. I actually can load this right on my Synology. And boom, you just download it and done. Once, that was kind of like the easy selling point of it. So that's, yeah. It's not just a damage ubiquity. It's all the people implementing it and the resellers, so on. Yeah. It's a lot of brand damage. You ever use Synology Drive? I like that a user doesn't have the VPN to get into files and use a Drive app. Instead, how secure is Synology since it sits on an internal LAN and gets in internet traffic? Synology does a pretty good job of security. That being said, the moment you expose things, you're relying on those companies to keep up with security. QNAP is an example of a company that has an asset that does not keep up with security. They were just in the news again for more problems. But at least they've been on top of it. As there's been problems, Synology's been on top of repairing those problems. So I feel confident using their products, that they make a good solution. But with any solution, that's what it's really going to come down to, is how good is that particular company at security? It's always a trade-off. I think of Google as a good company when it comes to security, but they're in the news. And this is kind of, where did it go here? Hold on. Because this was just the other day I tweeted this out. Because this is not too surprising that Google Fi, and it's not directly Google, but it still affects Google, and people complaining about it. Basically, and pull it up here. So much news, you got to search. There we go. Yeah, Google Fi data breach, hackers use SIM swap attacks. Now, the Google Fi data breach is not exactly Google Fi. It's indirectly Google Fi because it's via T-Mobile. So it's kind of a mess. But yes, people got some data and SIM swap attacks. And there's a post on Reddit that someone was talking about how, they got their SIM attacked. Now, I really, really wish nothing depended on SMS. I get rid of anything that depends on SMS. But I don't know what to do about some things that just don't have another option. It kind of sucks. So it is what it is. Is there an MB app for the Apple TV? I don't use an Apple TV, so I don't know. Docker, yes. I don't have a PS5, so that doesn't affect me much. Synology C2 can be a viable cloud share from Synology. Right client. Yes, we like this Synology stuff. Would you do port forwardings for Synology Drive? I would use Quick Connect, so a hacker couldn't see open ports in your firewall. The second one, I would actually prefer Quick Connect over opening ports. That's what I'd recommend for most people do. So the Quick Connect is great. definitely using Quick Connect is a good idea. I don't think I have Synology Drive loaded on this one. We can always load it. Oh, I do have Synology Drive on here. Do I have anything in it? Oh, I guess we do. One of my employees is playing with it. So yes, there are some things in here. I just did a video too on the Synology snapshots. These are pretty cool. This is a great feature of Synology. I dove deeper into it in a video, but I kind of go back and forth. Like when I have a bunch of Synology stuff I'm working on, I usually just go and rock out a bunch of Synology videos all at once. Yeah, close all the ports for sure. Travis's employee. Yes. Quick connector reverse proxy. I don't know. It comes down to who's better at maintaining that updates related to it. Are you good at maintaining your reverse proxy and making sure you're using the latest version all the time of the software? Or do you think the people at Synology are? It's a gamble. Either one works. I don't know that there's any good or bad. I don't have mine at home. I don't have it exposed at all. Well, I have one that is and one that isn't. This is actually one of the reasons I separate things. Like my Synology that runs my camera system is exposed because I want to be able to easily, without opening up a VPN or anything like that, I use Synology Quick Connect to have my Synology accessible via the app so I can watch my cameras or do things like that. I actually use it I use my camera one also. If someone asks me to share a file, I actually copy it to the camera server and then I'll share it out from there. I don't like my main Synology server externally exposed because it's got so much stuff on it. So I just don't expose that one. Is the Synology Photos app secure? Internet is still allowed to go in and ask an update. I would say, yeah, the Synology Photo app's good, and I use it. See, I keep my Synology up to date, but I don't expose it to the internet. I don't use Quick Connect or anything like that. My main Synology has internet access, so it can get updates, but it does not externally expose anything on it. No, a ZFS snapshot and a Synology snapshot using ButterFS. The snapshot is nothing more than a few kilobytes of data. It's only differential. Only. Not the, if it's 100 gigs, the snapshot's not 100 gigs. It's still going to be only differential. So if we look at the snapshots, and I'll definitely have a few in here that aren't using much data. Let's see. Why is there so many of these? What are these from? Oh, I got a bunch of them I got to get rid of. But if we look at the, I think it'd be my video ones. There you go. You can see that there's only kilobytes, even though there's 330 gigs in here. These snapshots are only kilobytes because they're only those differentials between there. So there's, for whatever reason, probably because I have something open, it did change just a couple kilobytes of data, but they're always differential. So there's only time there's big changes is when you make big changes to it. So if we go over here, actually items per page, just do it 100. Oh, there's only 10. What's my oldest one? So I did, yeah, there's actually none of these really have many changes in them. So none of these are very big. Do I have anything in here that's big at all in terms of changes? Let's see. Referenced. A couple of these. Yeah, here's a couple bigger changes. The LTS video production ones here. Actually, sort it by amount used. There we go. Maybe a couple of them. My syncing data changed by 4 megabytes. 40 gigs here. Oh, my computer backup changed because I backed up some more files. Actually, this is probably an old static reference. I got to get rid of some of the old references and snapshots in here. That's weird. I started to sort by amount used, but it doesn't seem to do that very well. Once a client is VPN, what do you recommend to get their desktop app? RDP. RDP works for desktop apps. Is once they use VPN, VPN plus RDP works good. Why use Quick Connect versus HA proxy? Because Quick Connect will just handle it for me, less complexity. It depends. Use whichever one makes you happy, but they're both good choices. Hi, Tom. Are you an early access channel for UniFi OS? Thoughts on the UDM Pro? I'm on an early access channel, but I still haven't got the 3.0. So if it updated, I didn't check it today, so I don't know if it updated in the last couple days. So if we delete 100 gig, the snapshot won't help. No, if you delete 100 gig, you can use a snapshot to restore it. I have a whole video on snapshots. You don't expose your NAS, but your VPN is still exposing it, right? Yes. Or do you not even use VPN to access your NAS, only cameras and Quick Connect? I have a VPN if I want to get back into my network, but for my camera system, the camera system does use Quick Connect. I use a VPN if I want to get back on my network, but I don't need to use a VPN because I have the camera systems exposed. But I may want to get back on my network for something other than the cameras. But, it really comes down to whichever one you want to use. If you want to run everything through HA proxy, that's fine. Synology just makes it convenient with their Quick Connect. So I check the box in the Quick Connect, magicked, and works. So I have a VM and want to test changes. Initially set it up to take a snapshot. If something, I can revert to a snapshot. Will all the VM files be deleted? No, when you revert, it doesn't delete the files. It just goes back and forth to it. Like when you bring something right back to its snapshot. And of course, there's different types of snapshots. Are you talking specifically about you're going to run a virtual machine inside a TrueNAS? That is different than, for example, doing snapshots in here. So if we did a snapshot of this VM, the size and reference to this is going to grow based on the number of changes that happen in this particular virtual machine. It works very similar, but these type of snapshots for virtual machines are not ZFS based. So the ZFS based snapshots work a little bit different. So it kind of depends on where's the hypervisor running. I read so fast, you messed up my message. So I'd have a VM I want to test change it, initially set it up and take a snapshot. If something up I could ever revert with the snapshots, what if the VM files? Yeah, I mean, if you revert back to the snapshot, it's like taking a slice in time saying, this is where we want to rewind to. That's how snapshots work, both in hypervisors and in ZFS and in ButterFS. There are points in time that you can bring yourself back to. So if anything you created after that point in time is going to be gone. If Quick Connect is compromised, they can see everything. No, Quick Connect does not give them deep levels of access to my system. Quick Connect allows them to the username and password page. That's what Quick Connect is doing. It is not granting access. It is granting username and password. Like, hey, here's that username and password page. It says, what's your user and password? So if someone compromised Quick Connect, then like, what are they compromising? They're getting to your login page. It's not really a compromise at that point, unless you're saying, what if, and here's a question for you, and let's grab that tinfoil hat and let's wrap it tight. What if Synology turns out to be some threat actor themselves, and then they push all their updates into the system that allows them to do anything they want? Is that the fear you're having? At that point, just don't use the product if you don't trust the company. You have to have some trust somewhere, or it doesn't all work. Hello, Tom. I have a question regarding pfSense Pro. Got a Protectelli 4-port, and I want to install pfSense for this Pro. I think you mean pfSense Plus, but okay. Just naming thing here. For snapshots, is it free for commercial use at home, and is there any downsides? There are no downsides, and the pfSense, we'll pull it up real quick here. Let's see. Where do we? Come on, big screen. Scroll down. There we go. I think you got to click on buy. Yeah, you do. All right, there we go. It's right on their website. And I probably should do a video on this of exactly how to do it. So we have home, non-commercial use, free, lab, free. So both of these are free. TAC is the one that eventually I think are going to charge for in the future is TAC but home use is free. So as a home or lab user, you can use it. TAC is actually a support one, and I think they're going to charge like $100 a year in the future for this. But for home users, free. So that hopefully clears that up. Quick Connect is Synology sponsored proxy. Yeah. Synology facilitated proxy, sponsored proxy. Facilitating is probably it. Did I see the 2302 RC release? Let's look at their blog. I don't think so, though. Nope, nothing on their blog about it. We can also go back over here because there was an update. Because now I'm currently running. I just updated mine today. Share this tab instead. There we go. So I just updated mine, and it's currently running. I think I got to go to system, boot environments. Yeah. I'm now running 2301R, and I was running 2301B. So it's now moved down to R. I just did this today. Because you see, I working before February 2nd update. So I did update it. I didn't look at what was changed. I just seen there was an update, so I pushed it. I was like, I'll just roll the update. If nothing explodes, I'll do a video about it or something. I already did a video about the release candidate. I don't think there's anything groundbreaking. This is another incremental release. Just don't use admin on account on Synology 6. And I wish you can do that in 6.0 plus. Do you use Ubiquiti switches for your storage network? Seems like they don't have any options more than 10 gig speeds, only a couple ports at higher speeds. I mean, most people don't need not saying nobody, most people don't have a demand right now for 25 gig. Does it exist? Yeah. There are definitely, if you're using some flash arrays and things like that, you'll want to go 25 gig or faster. But you're right. You're going to use, if someone has a use case and they go, I need 100 gig setup. Yeah, you're not going to go with Ubiquiti on that. That's a given. The market we work in a lot of the clients we have are 10 gig and a few 25. Still 10 gig is pretty prevalent in the market, but it's not like everyone has a 100 gig connection. So Ubiquiti still works pretty well for that. But you're right. If you need something faster, Ubiquiti kind of goes off being that. When you buy a NEC 8 device, when does the TAC light expire? I bought mine, but didn't know how to activate TAC. I don't know. I think as long as that product is sold, they support it. I don't really understand. I'll directly ask them that because I'll reach out because I'm kind of curious because I want to do a video on it because the whole confusion around that part is something that comes up a lot, and how to load pfSense Plus. So yes, pfSense. Well, no, pfSense 2301 release candidate came out. When did that come out? They made an announcement. Okay, it's because it was beta. So it went from beta to release candidate. It's actually said release candidate for a while because the beta came out in December. But I guess, yeah. So I guess it went from beta to RC. No, NEC 8's not charging for open source software. These are the comments that make this such a hard topic to cover. I probably need a dedicated video for it. I have one already called pfSense versus pfSense Plus, but there probably needs to be another one because people are always confused by this. When you get over 10 gig, you maxed out HDs or SSDs connector bandwidth. Yeah, and this is why there's not a huge, like, the hard drive's got to get faster. And sometimes I've had people that contact us for support on stuff, and they're like, "Hey, I can't get this whole 10 gig saturated here." And I'm like, "You have an array of spinning Rust drives. Exactly what you're trying to achieve here. You're going to have to buy some SSDs or some NVMe's to achieve faster." Try to refresh that web page. Okay. So you're saying if I refresh the page, so I don't know, I hit refresh. I don't see anything on here. Yeah, the last one was I don't know. I don't see anything about the new release. Yeah, they're not charging for the open source software. It's still free to download. That hasn't changed. But hey, we got a release candidate, so we got that. I guess it goes from beta to RC working. So that's because that's what I'm on right now. It's 2301 RC working. Seems to be fine. Nothing broke. Nothing. No one's complaining. I'm not complaining. I'm streaming directly on this. So, here's the, I don't know. Some of the data going through. Nonetheless, did I use the MQTT? That's a good question. $100 a year was for their support. If you wanted they're working on at one time they had a graphic somewhere in there that said in the future they're going to charge $100 a year for support, their TAC Lite. You can still get a free license with no support, but their support, like their TAC Lite as they call it, would cost $100 a year. So relatively cheap. Support's the most expensive thing doing any of this stuff. I don't remember which one I have. I got to look it up. I always look it up by going through and trying to find in my orders on Amazon when I ordered it. We ordered a couple of them. I was trying to remember what they're called because they have the name doesn't match. See, if I go to my Amazon cart, here's some of the things I ordered. And by the way, it doesn't show in there. They've got it spelled wrong or something like that. I don't know. I'm going to work on a home kit video because this is the pain in the butt part. I could tell you it wasn't that one. Oh, here we go. Last purchase, January. I purchased a couple of these ones. The last one I bought a year ago. The one I bought before that. So I've had these for a little while. These are the ones I'm using. They work fine because they do Z-Wave and they do Zigbee. How do you guys connect to internet at home? 4G, ADSL, fiber. For me, it's we don't have any fiber right now. It's all just cable modems. Yeah, I waste more than $100 a year on my BSTV programs. Yeah. Yep. That's the thing. A lot of this stuff, people really are weird about a lot of that. You now have a temporary new update branch in pfSense Plus called Next Stable version 2301 RC. Huh. I don't know. Tweet me a link on that because you can't post links here. But it's the I'll I want to look. I don't know. It's on my to-do list. I just seen there was an update this morning, so I went and updated. I didn't really look at the what changed type of thing. I like the network attached Z-Wave Zigbee controls, make a mesh in a house. I forgot to name it though. Yeah, it's really nice because I integrate a lot more things. And I figured there's probably some value in me having a whole video where I talk about how to do all the stuff with the, where'd it go? Did I close it? Nope, it's over here. Share this tab. We're going to start closing tabs now. All right. But yeah, there's a lot of integrations I've done because I've set up hooks to do things and automate things. What are those at? Those are going to be under automations. So front lights and living room off and living room on at sunset. So I'm turning lights on and off. I don't think I have any scripts in here yet. Oh, I was playing with one of them. I have some scenes. I don't think I have. Yeah, I don't have any of that. But one of the challenge I really want to cover when it comes to this, and the most valuable thing is when I'm going through watching YouTubers and figuring things out when they talk about, all the different Home Assistant stuff. It almost always comes back down to what works with Home Assistant well, not what actually kind of sort of works, or if you play and load 20 scripts, what's the links on Amazon so I can buy crap that works. And I bring that up because I have this. This is more stuff that I'm working with for Home Assistant, some lights. What did I do here? Oh, it's coming unwound. There we go. I don't want to break it. But talking about the different LED lights and things like that, the different controllers for them and figuring out which controllers to buy, that are, I didn't want the Wi-Fi ones because the Wi-Fi ones usually have some stupid app you have to load on your phone that I don't really trust. I wanted ones that were, what are these, Zigbee or Z-Wave? I think these are Z-Wave or these are Zigbee lights. But that's what I wanted was some Zigbee controllers that I knew, and I haven't tested these yet, but allegedly they work. I'll confirm they work. And when I do my video, I'll list out all the parts for the different Z-Wave and Zigbee things that I know to work with it. And I think that's the big value my video can provide. Cool, you can find anyone teaching you how to set it all up. But the first question is, does this light switch work? Does this light work? Does that LED strip light work? What are the functional things that you have that are working with this? And that's going to be the part I want to talk about. Home Assistant out of the box worked much better with the Raspberry Pi 4 than Raspberry Pi 3. I only ever tried it on 4. Any small business UPS recommendations? Whatever one's on sale. The hardest part is finding a good deal on one when you're talking about for small business. See, like the TP links are confusing. And this goes for a few different models, not just TP link. One of the Home Assistant problems you run into with it is a certain firmware worked and you would find the process. And Jay from Learn Linux TV, he ran into this. He had a couple of them that worked and a couple of them that didn't. And it turns out if the firmware was of a certain age, you could reflash it with new firmware. But if the firmware was newer, I think it was TP-Link, locked people out of reflashing it. And I don't remember the details of what model it was, but it was one of the problems Jay ran into. And I think it was TP-Link. But this is that problem you run into of sorting out how Home Assistant's going to work properly. I moved Home Assistant to my Proxmox because it killed my micro SD card. Yeah, at some point I have a high endurance micro SD, but yeah, at some point I do concern myself a little bit with that. So sounds like my mic's gain is too high. I don't know why. I can see, but I don't know. I haven't touched the gain on this mic in years. Is anyone else having sound problems, or is it one person? Because this microphone's been in the same place, well, at this office in a year, but this computer came with me from my other office 2 years ago. TP-Link smart lights and LED chips work great with Home Assistant. Close tabs, add more RAM. The OS RAM works good. All right. Love to hear your thoughts on Unraid, especially since the next version supports native ZFS. The Docker interface is so snappy. I still don't plan on using it. I don't know how they're integrating ZFS, because one of the challenges, and this would be a good reason for them to implement it, is it's not a performance-oriented system. Unraid was not designed for performance. It's designed with their own RAID system that they have for how they handle RAID, but they give you some integrity of your data. They just don't give you performance. And it's just, fine. I just don't have the time to test on RAID. I don't have a use case for it. Home users seem to like it. Run with it. As far as use case, I never use it. We don't use it commercially, and it's not in any way on our roadmap to use it commercially. So it's not likely I'll ever do a video on it. Like, I don't hate the product or anything. I just, one of those, don't have a use case for it. But I know it's really popular among the home lab people. SSD is no clipping, no distortion. Perfect. Like I said, it seems kind of weird. I don't know. StreamYard is supposed to handle all that. That's the tool I use to broadcast with. That allows me to put all these comments on there. So sing us a word picture. My wife says she can hear me through the floor just fine. My wife's office is directly above me. Tried Unraid for a week from a backup server, switched never looked back. Yeah, I don't know of anything why you shouldn't use it. Like, it's a flawed system. It's just not something I use or really plan on using. So nonetheless, if you want to use it, there's other people doing videos on it. So well, actually, you asked for my thoughts on it, so I guess I shared them. So I accomplished that. I got to do a new video, though, on Synology versus TrueNAS, because this topic is going to be a tough one. There's so many, since I did that video, there's way more features both companies have added. So now I got to figure out a way to make this video in some way concise. And I'm probably going to have to make a chart just to go over all the feature comparisons between the two, because there's a ton of things they can do the same. There's not all the things they can do that is easy. And this is where the fuzzy part comes in. If you said, I'm looking for a turnkey backup solution for my Windows computers, Synology, awesome. Active backup, great system. You're like, but Tom, you could load and configure UR backup on your system that's running TrueNAS. And I'm like, yeah, that's not turnkey. That's a lot more complicated. It's not that you can't do it. It's just not as simple. So this becomes really fuzzy at that point. But I want to make that part clear, where I'll put some asterisks where can be done, but more complicated. Like, I guess I got to figure out the best way to do that. So I saw do extreme privacy in Google Pixel phone flashed with Graphene OS, Faraday bag for home use, different phone outside in your home. Is this too much for you? It's more than, I'm a very privacy oriented person, but my answer is I am where my phone is. And when I'm not, I'm offline, and my phone doesn't matter. So if you want to go offline, I go offline. If I want a privacy oriented device, I guess you could flash a phone, but I don't really have a need for a privacy oriented device. When I go out in the woods to be away from the world, I go out in the woods to be away from the world, and I'm not worried about it at that point. So I don't really dive into those topics it's fun, but I just don't have time to play with like Graphene OS and everything else. I think it's cool. And I think privacy oriented stuff is awesome, but yeah. Did you publish your Synology flash or video? Sure did. The FS3410 video is live on my channel. My wife is not my wife is into securities, not security. She does finances. Yes. Did all the stuff arrive yet, Travis, or is it still on schedule for arriving tomorrow? This is the part that's going to be hard to highlight. The TrueNAS The Docker implementation is clunky. Yes, it is. Unraid is already if you want mixed and matched drives, the Linux ISOs. My Unraid box is lower cost per terabyte than my TrueNAS box. Funny enough, I'm writing off TrueNAS because I need the features that aren't available on TrueNAS core scale. Definitely not Unraid. Not using XCP-NG. Yeah, Synology is great because, for example, you want to run Synology Photos, and I think Synology Photos is great. I do run this. I have a whole video on Synology Photos, and we'll switch to that in a second here. Oh, wrong Synology. I have more than one Synology, so I can figure out which one I want to log into. There we go. First, make sure I'm not sharing anything private. Okay, there's nothing here at all. There's a couple things. I have a couple random photos. Let me see. Can I share these? It's because Synology is the place where I will have my personal photos. And so we'll share this tab instead. If I don't want them anywhere else, I think it's great being able to manage and upload all your photos right to Synology. This is the build of the studio I'm in right now. So here's my basement when me and my friends were actually building it. I can't remember if I have any video of this, but I think Synology is great for some of the, building the personal photos and things like that. It's just kind of fun. Actually, it's kind of fun too. Brett trying the AR stuff. So the Surgeon game, whatever that game is. But yeah, Synology Photos is a great feature. It's one of those turnkey things. It's a good selling point. And this is where that question comes up. Could you do this with TrueNAS? It's not the same. It's not as turnkey. Everything here awesome. What uses less power, the Synology or Unraid or TrueNAS? That depends on the model. I wanted my server to be less of a headache, so I'm running TrueNAS, but I was thinking of doing some really dumb stuff with TrueNAS scale server. Thoughts on Synology with QNAP? Synology is quality. QNAP is garbage when it comes to security. QNAP just doesn't, they're in the news all the time for yet another breach. They don't seem to be very on top of things. Something you should never do, but I was going to experiment running Proxmox virtualize my TrueNAS scale box to see how badly this explodes. Hey, it's all about learning. Synology Photos instead of paying for Google Photos iCloud. Yes. And you're in control of the data, but also you're responsible for the data, which leads you to making sure you have somewhere to back that data up. This is unfortunate where people dive into, I'm going to run it all myself and I'm going to run Nextcloud and Synology and do all these things, except then you run into the next problem of, that's right, I forgot to back all that stuff up and something happened. So if you decide to go down that route, there's kind of a middle ground of tech savvy. You're real tech savvy, no big deal. You can back everything up yourself and you're fine. You're tech savvy where you could set up a Synology, but you don't want to have to deal with too many things. You could probably do it, but you at least have to be conscious enough that if you're putting all your data on Synology, just because it has multiple drives, you should be backing it up if you care about that data. Why use Synology HA if you can roll back so easy with a snapshot replication when HA would replicate ransomware attack? HA is not the same. I don't like, you're asking if Synology replication and HA, why would you need HA? HA is not the same thing. It's not even in a apples to oranges fruit comparison here. It's not the same thing. If you have a high availability system, high availability systems are not designed to protect you from ransomware. High availability systems are provide resiliency. So if one system dies, another system can jump in its place and keep serving the files. But you can take an HA system and also have snapshots that will allow you the rapid recovery and all the benefits of snapshots. So everything I said about snapshots also applies to HA. So you can have an HA system and then run snapshots. That is the extra you could do. It's not like snapshots are a replacement for HA. They're just a different solution. HA really has nothing to do with ransomware protection. It's just resiliency against failure. Matter of fact, it's HA doesn't offer you any resiliency against people who do things like, delete files. If you don't have some plan to restore files, you can have an incredibly resilient server in terms of hardware failure resiliency, network failure resiliency, but do you have some points in time snapshots because that user just deleted something? I store and transfer a lot of large video files and 3D models, all the technologies. I was looking to seem to have too little RAM and low core speeds. You don't need as much as you think, but it kind of depends. They do list out their speeds and IOPS. It's not like it takes a whole lot of processing power to move data around. It just doesn't. Has anyone noticed the multicolored usernames in Y2 chat apart from the blue moderator names and the green channel member names? Has anyone knows implemented this feature? I am not sure at all. Yeah, RAID is not a backup at all. If you have 2 terabytes of photos and videos backed up like Synology Photos, how can you back up the 2 terabyte to another machine, to the cloud somewhere? Backblaze is a good one to back up to. We use Backblaze a lot because it works great. You can encrypt before you send, so they don't have access to your files. But if you don't have another location, or you don't have another Synology locally, but then the problem is if you have all your backups and you have a handful of backup drives here in one location, you now have the challenge of what if there's some natural disaster that happens where these devices are. It's the term you use is risk tolerance. What's your risk tolerance? What's the likelihood and the risk tolerance you have for a disaster happening here, a disaster happening elsewhere? So you figure out where you want your backups to be. Thank you. So an HA snapshot replication is kind of ideal for uptime resilience against RAMs. HA with snapshots, yes, or just snapshots, because even if you don't have HA, having snapshots, that's the key part. HA just doesn't play into this. HA is just like, hey, cool, we have redundant hardware to avoid potential problems. Ransomware is not a redundant hardware issue, a resiliency issue. It's how fast can I unencrypt all these files? What do you think about running pfSense inside of a virtualization for home and office? I think it's fun for a lab. The risks with it can be kind of a headache. You're adding complexity to a network. When you want to support networks, you want them as simple as possible because they're easier to support. If it's your home network, fine. But if it's not your home network, take that into consideration. Incompetence is still probably a bigger danger than ransomware. I've seen someone suggest Amazon Glacier. Yeah, Amazon Glacier is another option too. Backblaze offsite. I like Backblaze. We've been using Backblaze. We've had great reliability with them. It's just a consistently working good product. But meaning to do more file sorting because I don't need to back up mainly Linux ISOs, just personal files. Yeah, having all your data organized so you know what you're backing up, that's always key. And Synology C2 is also a great option. Their pricing is good. We have some clients using that as well. I throw a shout out for Synology C2 being a good product. My only problem with Synology is that multiple ways to do the same thing: Cloud Sync, HyperVault, Active Backup, small differences. But those small differences matter. So it's not that there's small differences. It all comes down to what your use case is. And I think Synology could do a better job of making charts to explain these things to us. It's annoying. I wish that's actually one of my aggravations I had. And let me find it real quick here. Because when I made this chart here, where did it go? The reason I had to make this chart is because Synology didn't. And they kind of need Synology. Like I'm going to talk to their marketing people because I'm like, look, guys, this was not hard for me to make, but why am I making it? Like this was a comparison to the different versions of a couple different things. Like I can read through the docs. That's how I came to these conclusions, but I shouldn't have to read through the multiple docs and try to figure out what's missing from one section to another. And it like these are easy, clear things for clear ways to share information. So hopefully Synology, by the way, I'll tell them copy and paste mine. I don't care. You don't need to reinvent it. It's all here. So the charts is what we need. Yeah, I actually have a conversation I'm going to be having soon with some people over at Synology, and I'll bring this up to them. Like, look, I sent them the link to my video because they asked if they could use it in their social post. And I said yes, to go ahead and use it. But I'm also going to bring this up to specifically the marketing person I know over there. I got a large Dropbox for doing cloud backups for some of my data. Just haven't set up yet because I'm lazy and haven't sorted the data. Yeah, that's always a challenge. I liked your comments a few weeks ago. Be aware of cheap backup solutions because how long will that company might last? Yeah, it is a challenge that people have to think about with any of these. How long will this be supported for? How long will it continue working? Is it a reliable solution? And what you need to do, this is really important. And this is one of the reasons like Backblaze and C2 have been good about this. You need to not just back up something somewhere. You also should test once in a while, pulling it back down, because this is where people run into problems. And sometimes you don't even need to test it. You could look at stupid problems like this. And let's say we have 8 terabytes of data, but we only have a 50 megabit connection. How do we get our 8 terabytes of data back out of the cloud? Well, we're just going to download it. Sure you are. You don't, how soon do you want that data? What about, we've had clients that have even less, like, man, we've only got this 15 megabit connection. Well, I'm sorry. It's going to take this many, let's change this to days. So no problem. We're going to get your 8 terabytes, or we did a DR test with a company that had similar problems. And, when they have tons of data, you just start doing some calculations and go, hey, there's some flaws here about how fast we're going to get our data back. These are things you really have to think about when you're backing it up, is what's your recovery time look like? And sometimes you don't even need to go through the DR process and testing it to find out, going, yeah, we kind of run into a problem here. You've backed it all up to the cloud, but do you know if you lose your on-site, it's going to take you 60 days to get it back out of the cloud. Encrypted files in the cloud, they can still decrypt it. There's an exploit encrypt it when there's an exploit encryption method used to decrypt it. That's back to tinfoil hat thinking. You're assuming that cryptography, despite all the eyeballs on it, is, the current modern cryptography we use is somehow going to be broken. It's a stretch. It's a stretch. Could it be? The chance isn't, 100% zero, but it's extremely unlikely. And by the way, if they find a flaw in the modern AES ciphers that we use, we have way bigger problems than my Google Photos being backed up in the cloud, or photos being backed up in the cloud. I'm just going to throw that out there. If we find a flaw in our modern encryption, the least of our worries is my photos, or at least of any of the world's worries are. So that's stretching there. But yeah, back it up on site. If you don't ever want your data being online, then don't put it online. Just buy lots of drives, drive them physically places so that you have backups of them. Still nothing on XO Store. I haven't had a chance. I'm waiting till the new version comes out. I think it may be later this year. I don't have a time frame on it at all. Copy, clone a hard drive with a cron job. I've never tried to do that, so I can't think of a reason why I'd want to do that. So no answer on that one. Have you ever run into issues with Synology backups or experience a PC simply losing connection to the NAS? Yes. I believe it was a certificate issue, but we had computers start running. Yes, you have to keep the certificate renewed on there. So that's the Synology, and this is what I criticized them on right away in that video, was they need better, what do you call that? Essentially, they need a much better way to track how the backups work and give you better insights into their active backup. That's something they need, because when something fails and you don't notice it, or something hasn't backed up for a long time, they just need better ways to display that data. And they need essential management for that data too, that they don't have. But I like the active backup, but you're right about the certificate thing. I forget where you look at it in here. I think it's under settings. There you go. Because you can set this dedicated certificate, enable or disable it, and you can update it here. So I know this I actually don't like that I can't update it ahead of time. So like I guess I have to, I don't remember if it just tells me, is it send me a notice? It's been a while. I can't remember, but that is an option they have here that says update the certificate. You just can't force it to update ahead of time. Air gap, all the things. Absolutely. Ooh, I didn't know Oliver was still here. That's exciting. So XO Store announcement in the next week or so. So I said this year, it sounds like maybe this quarter. So that's exciting. I would love to test it. I've been waiting for them to do some more work with it, and it's going to be interesting. We've referred people over to Netgate for TNSR, but we don't deploy TNSR ourselves. If someone wants it, we just throw them back over to Netgate. Whenever I set up a computer, I clone the SSD to the second one in a tower that's not plugged in. I mean, that's the way you could do it. Regarding my previous question, pfSense and Procton, is it possible to run a machine with a single NIC? I think you can do by using a lot of VLANs running on a single NIC. I think it's a terrible idea. But if you're looking for, can it be done? And the answer is yes. Should it be done? Tom's answer is, outside of a lab experiment, I wouldn't build anything reliant on that. There's probably a way to make it work. I don't think it's a great idea. Post in their forums, because you'll look and there's a bug that one of the updates broke. So there was an update that got broke, and there's a fix for it. It's in their forums, and it's, updates can't be done. Look for recent posts on that. There was a problem where one of the updates set the repository wrong or something like that. A few people pointed out the fix for it, but it's in their forums. So yes, there's a fix. I just don't remember the command. It's like package clean or something like that, and it repulls the packages. It wasn't hard to do. I had one system that was actually doing it, but it's been a while and I don't have the forum post link. Hit each client and restart the backup. That's interesting. I really wish QNAP would get their security in check. They released a NAS that uses 2 NVMe for all the storage. This is where they have some, what do you call it? Good hardware that just doesn't have good software with it. I actually am curious, and maybe me and you will chat about this, Willie. Like, what's a good QNAP model to load TrueNAS on? Maybe I'll grab one to load TrueNAS and talk about it from that perspective, because I know there's people that have done that. Intel or AMD processor? Yes, what's on sale, but do you still have suggestions? My suggestion is going to be, I like this processor here. Works good. AMD Ryzen 9 5900X. That's what I'm using. Works well. Epic, if you can afford it. Absolutely. AMD is better at the moment. Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that. I love the AMD systems we have. NICs don't have switching hardware. Will make it through non-optimal, for what I understand. I think you're talking about the other one. One big server is probably going to be more power efficient, but kind of depends. I do have to leave in about 5 minutes because I got to go get ready for the Techbar. So, by the way, because I brought it up earlier, and I'll throw this again as a link in there because there's more people here now than there were before. I will be doing the Techbar today. That's my next live stream. I'm joining my friends at 6:30 p.m. It looks like that starts 6:30 p.m. EST. So it tells you here it's 77 minutes away. Anyone else believe that Microsoft will release their own desktop Linux in the coming years? Not at all. I doubt it. I don't see that happening. My next server might be getting cheaper in the used market. Wendell from Level 1 Techs has a Threadripper build. I think he did. I think he's got one with XCP-NG. Check Wendell from Level 1 Techs on his YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure he's got a Threadripper build in there for XC. I think he actually built an XCP-NG system with it. Smash the like button. Say hi to Willie Howe. Yes, that's the VoIP company I work with. So that's my friend Ray. Ray is the CEO of OIT. And Ray doesn't, he laughs, but I always call it OIT VoIP. OIT VoIP is his company. I just say OIT VoIP. Somewhere I got his little mascot. I got to make sure I bring, this is their little company mascot. I have, I'm going to make sure I have this with me. Actually, I got to wear my, I got a Techbar shirt I got to put on too. Me and Ray are going to do some spicy food, and Brett's joining us, and we're going to have some fun. The intros and outros are on the way. They're not here. I gave money to the person. Oh, literally, they sent me. They have questions, so they're coming closer. I went and pulled it up because a few hours ago they messaged me. So yes, they're the intro, outros, and new features for the channel are coming. Wendell has all kinds of stuff. Do we contract with the Fed or the state? We do. We do have some contracts, not really contracts. We do project work for what is indirectly the state. So there's state agencies we're dealing with, no federal ones right now. Ooh, hot sauce of the day merch. I need to really, oh, awesome. Thank you. That's my next thing. First is the channel stuff. The next thing I'm doing is I have a bunch of shirt ideas I just haven't had time to do. And I'm trying to find someone that I need to hire to do the doodles. Like I'm going to just like, here's all my ideas and just do a brain dump and then pay them to finish the designs and get it all done. So yes. Definitely on my to-do list to get that done sooner than later, but one step at a time. Because somewhere in between, I still run my business. So there's still a lot going on that I have to do. So, all right, we hit the 5:15 mark. So I need to go get ready for my next thing because I'm doing it up in my kitchen, which means I got to take some of my studio stuff and take it upstairs. So that is the next thing to do. What else do we have here? All right, I think I've answered everyone's questions. Thanks everyone for joining. Hit that smash and like, subscribes, and all those fun things. Look forward to seeing some of you come join over in about 70 minutes from now over at the Techbar. If you want to, we will be talking hot sauce for sure. We're going to talk some business, talk some hot sauce, talk some tech. Definitely have some laughs. Ray is good people. And like I said, Ray and Brett and all of us are joining. So it's definitely going to be fun. And if any of you are up for it, hey, join us over at the Techbar. Thanks.